Welcome back to the Lotus Room for another installment of Tool Check, your leading source of vibes-based tool reviews, and we've got a fun video for you today. So, WorkPro reached out to me to see if I wanted to take a look at their new set of universal joints. These guys right here, and I said, yeah, sure, why not? And just to reiterate my policy on promotional items, I will accept free things to review, but I will not take money in exchange for making a video. We've got some standards over here. Free stuff is fine though. And I thought it would be a little bit boring to just look at these. So instead I thought, let's take a look at a variety of what I'm gonna call enhanced access tools. So tools that make it a little bit easier to get to hard to reach or otherwise impossible to reach fasteners. We'll go through a couple of these, try them out, we'll have some fun, tell some jokes, pretend like we're hanging out in the garage together. Pour yourself a nice warm beverage. I got my infrared heater here to prevent my fingers from becoming numb like last time. And we're gonna maximize the coziness. We're cozy maxing, if that is the thing. We're not actually doing that. I just have a heater and that's it. We also got the little mini recyclable thing to keep us company. That's nice. It's a good company for the mini Lowe's bucket. We're gonna call this video, let's call it the universal joint plus other access enhancing tools video extravaganza. Yeah. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so first up, let's just talk about these universal joints a little bit. You've probably seen these or have these if you've ever bought pretty much any ratchet set whatsoever is going to come with something similar to this or you know, something that looks just exactly like this. A fun fact about universal joints, the mathematics describing their motion go back to about the 1600s. And I think even around then we saw primitive versions of these being made in various mechanisms. But it wasn't until like the early 1900s that we saw them utilized in more efficient ways for like cars and that kind of stuff. And then I'm pretty sure it wasn't until the 30s that we saw them in like a tool style format. So a little fun history lesson for you. But the purpose of a universal joint in general, beyond just the tool version, is that it allows you to move a joint in kind of like multiple directions, right? And so with one of these, you kind of have a full 360-degree movement just from two right angles intersecting each other, which is pretty cool if you ask me. They give you better access in like low clearance situations to just kind of demonstrate a little bit. Like if we were to grab our trusty small body 3/8 here and put it on there, we just knocked over the recycling, man. I guess I hate the environment. You can put a right angle on this and sort of twist, right? So if I was to grab, hold on one sec, one of these and one of these. So if you were to kind of get these together, you can, at any angle, just in case you've never seen this before somehow, put it on there and from kind of a weird angle, apply torque to this thing. But it can be a little bit awkward, right? But you just got to kind of focus on the thing. Actually, you know, one trick that I've noticed with universal joints is that I typically don't use them with flex heads. Flex heads make it a little harder. Let's actually get a fixed one on there real quick. So yeah, here we go. Here's a fixed ratchet. I found this makes it a whole lot simpler. But yeah, you just kind of do the thing, and you can apply torque at almost any angle, though it is extremely awkward sometimes, as this is. So you can sort of see the way that these work, and you can kind of see the difficulties with the universal joint. It can just get really tricky to figure out what the heck is going on. The flex heads tend to just add to the confusion a little bit. Really quick, funny story about these WorkPro ones. When they emailed me, I took a look at the page, and I saw that they were spring-loaded. It said, you know, features spring-loaded locking, and I was like, oh, cool. Is there, you know, some kind of new technology that I'm unfamiliar with? And so I got them, and when I was using them, I was like, wow, these are really remarkably identical to kind of almost like every other universal joint, kind of like this Tekton here. And then I read the full description, and this is a good lesson for why you need to read all the instructions or the full product description. I'll just read this to you. It says, features a spring-loaded locking ball that holds the universal joints securely in sockets or extension bars, keeping them stable and preventing slipping during use. So in other words, it features a ball detent. That was a feature. they decided was important enough to put on the list of features, which is it's really funny to me. I was like, this Wobble extension features a ball D10. This, spinner handle features a ball D10. So read the things about it. But that said, these are decent. I mean, they have the good laser etching on there. They're about as good as any other universal joint that you're going to find. They have this nice kind of black, I would assume is either like a manganese phosphate or just some other oxide coating, which is nice. These tend to last a little bit better than the chrome, I've noticed. Even though they are a dark color like this, they are not impact rated, which is something to make note of. But they're $10, and for that price, I think this is great for a set of universal joints. Kind of hard to beat that price. So if you need a set and like your set doesn't have one or you broke yours, this is a good option. But I also wanted to go through some of the advances that have kind of been made in universal joint technology, if that's a thing. It was some different styles and just some of these other access tools. So let's take a look at a different style of universal joint. So the first kind of style of improvement tech we could see is these swivel joint style universal joints. Instead of the two 90-degree angles coming together, these have a hexagonal ball that has been press fit into a kind of free-floating holder, and it makes it so you can get sort of an angle at whatever you're working with. So, for example, if we were to take our handy-dandy ratchet again with a socket like this, this allows you to get an angle at something that you're working on. It is not as great as being able to do a full 90-degree or close to a 90-degree angle that you could on a traditional universal joint, but the operation on these is significantly smoother. It's just a lot easier. You don't get that weird, floppy, non-Euclidean geometry type situation that some universal joints like to endow upon you. So we wanted to say, take this one out here at a bit of an angle. It's quite easy to do that. Just the operation on these is smooth and nice. That kind of hexagonal ball makes it a lot simpler to work with than a typical universal joint. Sort of a riff on this is these by Klein. Now these are kind of more designed for an impact, like an impact driver, but you could conceivably put this in like a bit driver, like just the 1/4 hex bit holder. But it unseats like this. I mean, you saw that, right? And then it has that same, if you look in there, hexagonal ball, and this kind of rotates to give you that extra little bit of clearance. So if you put that on there, it's kind of like this, right? Again, it's not a super steep angle, but it is enough to kind of get the job done. So if you wanted to put that on like this this little vessel guy here, you could conceivably get to something a little bit easier. Another example is Klein has that sort of same thing on some of their flip sockets, right? So this flip socket goes in here. It's on this swivel thing, and so you can you can get to stuff at an angle. And like I said, the big advantage of this, though it's not as steep of an angle, the advantage of these swivel style universal joints is that the operation is so smooth. I know that Koken, I don't have one and I haven't used it, but I've seen it and I'm probably gonna buy one. It has a double jointed version of this, so you can kind of maybe almost get the best of both worlds out of that. Really kind of a cool idea. And so, yeah, I think that these are really, I would say, just a general improvement in the world of universal joints. But there is another style that I also enjoy. All right, the next improvement in the world of universal joints, the exciting world of universal joints, is this. So this looks just like kind of a normal one. It uses the same geometry that you would see, kind of the two right angles on each other there. But these are spring-loaded. These ones by Tekton, and which means that if I was to take this and pull this down like this and let go, right, it would spring back to exactly the neutral position. And you might be wondering, why on earth would I want something like that? Well, it just makes it a little easier to operate. The sort of the back pressure that you get when you're using it makes it so it's a lot. It's less confusing is the best word I can use. So here, let's get one of these on here. if we wanted to say take this one out, you can get it on there, and then it just makes it a lot simpler to operate. Even though I'm using this flex head, which can often be a little bit difficult, you just, with the back force and then just the spring force in general, this really does, it just makes more sense and makes this a lot simpler of a tool to operate. I believe that Vim Tools is the first one to do something like this. We want to give honor on the name of the creator, but the Tekton ones are significantly cheaper. So there's that. But Tekton did innovate in one way, and it's that they made this. It's the same kind of thing, but they put this spring-loaded universal joint on the end of an extension, just a 1/4 inch extension. And man, I've used this just once or twice, but it really is nice. And you put this on your ratchet, and you get your socket on there, and you can just kind of get into places that you otherwise would have kind of a hard time getting to, which is, the whole point of this is the access. But if you get something on there, you can just, it's a lot easier to work this universal joint when it's on the end of a extension, I've noticed. And so big shout out to Tekton for coming up with this. This is really handy. I can just imagine myself using this all the time, because you can really control the universal joint just super well, especially when it's spring loaded, especially when it's on the end of this extension like this. So yeah, the spring loading is really nice. Oh, and to Vim as well makes these spring loaded universal joint sockets. So instead of just a universal joint, it has that, and it has the spring loading, and it goes directly to a socket. These are absolutely fantastic. I've used these a couple of times, and just it gives you that extra little, whatever you want to call it, access to get to things. Here, let's find. There we go. My favorite way to use this tool is always at the end of an extension, and I particularly really like to use, if I can get away with it, a spinner handle that has a female drive on the end, because it allows you to finger spin things, which is just really, really handy. So if you were to kind of even from this like steep angle, it's not super pretty, but you can get to it, and you can really go for it. And then once it breaks a little freer, hold on, you can start spinning with your finger, and you can always kind of check the tightness with your hand if you have the kind of the screwdriver style in there. So yeah, I really like these sockets. If you're working on something in an engine bay, or just on an engine or whatever it is, these are just a lifesaver. I really, really like these spring-loaded ones. Tekton also makes a set of spring-loaded universal joint sockets, but they are not as complete as the Vim ones. The Vim ones have a lot more sizes. So anyway, yeah, the spring-loaded universal joint, I think, really is an upgrade in the world of universal joints. But let's take a look at some other access tools. All right, so the next step is these. These are what are known as Crowsfoot wrenches. I always pluralize it. I don't know which one is correct, but basically they are little small open-end wrenches that have a 3/8 receptacle on them that allows you to get into small, difficult-to-reach places. You can either put kind of do it by hand. If that was the right size, that would be really cool. You can either do it by hand, which is, I think, probably pretty rare. Put them directly onto a ratchet, or you can put them on an extension like this, and then a ratchet, and go to town on whatever fastener it is you're working on. The ratcheting doesn't really work that well. You gotta kind of manually readjust the wrench, but when you need them, these are absolutely amazing. There's a million different kinds of these. Some are 12-point. Some have like a shoulder on them. There's just a variety of different sizes and functions and shapes and all that. These are particularly made by Tekton, and one thing to note about a lot of Tekton's access wrenches, they're made in the USA, which is really cool, but these are also machined and they are not forged. Now that affords several benefits. It allows for geometries that are otherwise very, very difficult in the forging process, so you'll note that these are very angular and really, really thin. However, because they're not forged, the grain structure of the metal is not elongated. Not to make this into like chemistry class or whatever, but they're not as flexible. They're a little more delicate. So you don't want to like mega torque these guys, right? Like this is not like we're not like hooking this up to the four-wheeler and full sending it down the river, but in the right situation, if you're careful with it, these are really, really nice. And then if, the warranty is really, really good. But this is another style. I actually got these fairly recently and I have not had the privilege of using them. These are more of a swivel style Crowfoot. I just haven't, I've seen a number of places or tool makers sell these, but they're almost always discontinued. And in fact, these are by them as well, and these are discontinued, which is a shame because they're 12-point, which is really cool. You can count a lot of 12-point fasteners as I do. That's really, really nice. They're a little bit too thick, I think. I'd like these to be a little bit thinner, but being able to swivel and kind of get these at whatever angle is really, really stinking handy. It's kind of cool. You can almost use them by hand with an extension like this, or same deal. Put them into a ratchet and just go to town on whatever it is you're working on. These are really, really nice. Again, I wish they still made them. I'm not 100% sure that they made them or if they're buying them from somebody. I don't know what the original manufacturer is. If anybody knows, let me know. These swivel style Crowfoot wrenches are really, really nice. And I'm sure I now know what you're thinking. You're thinking like, well, why aren't any of these spring loaded? Well, I got you covered. These by Powerbuilt, some other people sell these as well, are sort of a spring-loaded, not universal Crowfoot, but these can work on a range of sizes, and it has kind of a similar operation as that sort of swivel one, and this one, a sort of similar kind of thing. So it can either go, the extension of the ratchet can go down this way, and you can use them from the top, or you can use them like this. They're kind of cool. I haven't really used these very much, but basically, just from what I understand, you just kind of hook it onto the thing you want to fasten or unfasten, and oh, that's tightening, not loosening. Oh, come on now, man. The videos made this look a lot easier. And it sort of kind of ratchets, right? It sort of like unslips and then goes. That's really cool. I really like that. That's really nice. That works really, really well. Now this is going to be a little harsh on your fasteners, of course. Sorry, man, I'm just not getting that in the shot at all. Man, this is like just almost too big for this. But man, that's very, very handy. Very cool. And I gotta say, the small one, look how cute and itty bitty and teeny tiny this little guy is. I love this thing. I am just enamored of how small this is. I feel like you could do like an EDC wrench. You could just like carry this in your pocket with like a small 1/4-inch extension and use this as like your little EDC wrench or whatever. I was messing around with this earlier and I was having a really hard time getting it to like fit onto anything. I don't know like what size this is supposed to function with. I cannot get this one to work, but I really believe in this. It's so small, it's so cute. It's just I'm just really pro micro. I love the small tools that can get it done. And I don't know if this is one of them, but I'll have to practice with this thing more. But yeah, these spring-loaded Crowfoot wrenches are handy in a pinch, especially if you're trying to reduce weight. And it doesn't really matter that you kind of scratch up the fastener a little bit. These are probably a really good option, like for plumbing or whatever. I know that Pipe Vise makes other ones. And I've noticed some other ones have a much longer nose, and that kind of makes sense because with this sort of smaller one, it seems to be kind of hard to grab onto stuff. Anyway, that's it for the Crowfoot wrenches. Let's look at some odds and ends. Or is it ends and odds? You decide. All right, last up are these kind of odds and ends. So these didn't really fit into a neat category, but I still thought were maybe worth mentioning a little bit. So first up are these sort of square, non-ratcheting drivers that are super low profile by Powerbuilt. There's other companies that make these as well. And basically, it's like a ratchet that doesn't ratchet. It's a square drive, turny thingy. I don't even know what you would call it. But basically, these allow you to just, if you need a little extra clearance, to slap a socket on there and just kind of go in there. I haven't used this yet, but I'm sure I saw them and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to buy these just on the off chance that I need them. I think these would be kind of cool to use in conjunction with like these Crowfoot wrenches. I feel like there's some potential there to get like access and you know, in like really low profile situations. And so I don't even know what the name for these would be, but and I haven't used them yet, but I think they would be useful. And in a similar vein are these torque extensions by Snap-on. These are cool because they give you the torque measurement here. So this is a 3.5-inch extension, and these are super simple. It's just a square receptacle and a square drive. So you can put your socket on here, put your torque wrench on there, and apply torque, or use it just as a general extension. I was kind of looking for something similar to this, and I'll be darned, Snap-on was the only one who sold something that was in this kind of vein. If you know of somebody else who sells sort of an access torque extension of this exact style, put it in the comments. I want to know about it because I don't know. I haven't really used these very much, but again, I know at some point I'm going to absolutely love them to death because they're gonna save me, probably. And the last up in our little odds and ends sections are these Wobble extensions. So these are it's like a regular 1/4-inch drive extension. They also make these in 1/2-inch and in 3/8. The big difference is that you'll note at the end it's got this kind of like extra kind of weird shape. You're like, what the heck is that? Well, basically, when you put them on, they wobble a little bit, hence the name, giving you just a little bit of extra access, kind of similar to those swivel style universal joints. They don't give you a ton of extra access, but often it's just what you need, and it's nice to have because that way you don't have to grab another tool. Almost all of my extensions, I get these Wobble Plus. Wobble Plus means that if you seat it all the way on the bottom, that it just acts like a normal one, and you pull up a little bit to get your wobble functionality. This one's a Tekton, by the way. This one's a Milwaukee. This one has a slightly steeper angle, so you get a little more wobble action. It's pretty cool. Man, look at that. That's quite a bit. It's just nice. Most of my extensions, like I said, are these because that way you don't need to grab an extra tool if you need just a little bit of extra access. You can just kind of pull up on this and you got it. So Wobble extensions are very, very good, very, very handy. And then you can use these like in conjunction with others. Like I sometimes will use these universal joints with a Wobble. So these like universal joint sockets, I'll put these on the Wobble and it'll give you just that little bit of extra play that you need to get into a spot and grab hold of a fastener that is giving you some trouble. So anyway, that is all of our access enhancing tools. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Go ahead and give this video a like, a comment, and subscribe. Do all that YouTube business. Smash that like button. That was not a very good smash. It was like a clap. It was a gentle clap. Gently clap that like button. Don't do that. Do not clap the like. Press the like button. We're gonna leave it there. Press the like button. Follow me over on Instagram if you want to see some of my musical or culinary adventures. You guys take care, and I will see you on the next video.